2 100-yard rushers all year. I mean, that's positive. That's positive.
But you also scored more points this year
We
than
also scored more points.
last few years combined, probably, right? I don't have the exact numbers in front of me,
Yeah,
but
we scored more, definitely.
I'll save that for when Jared comes out. Got to give him the
Glory.
the glory on that one. Good evening and welcome to Inside Kennedy Football, your weekly look inside the Eagle football program. My name is Josh Powers. Coming up on the season finale of Inside Kennedy Football, we'll talk to the head coach, Kedrick Williams, about their regular season finale against Minneapolis Washburn and their playoff game against Park of Cottage Grove. And we'll also spend some time with offensive coordinator Jared Cooper in his first year with Kennedy. But first, head coach Kedrick Williams, as we wrap up your first year as head coach, not the first year with Kennedy, but your first year as the head coach. We had the game against Washburn. We'll talk about that, and also the very tight playoff game against Park of Cottage Grove. But have you had a little bit of a time here, a week and a half or so, to decompress from the season? What are some of the takeaways that you've had from year number one for you?
First of all, let me say thank you for a great season, Josh. You guys come out. You guys really give us great support over at Kennedy, and I thank you for that. I think the one biggest lesson I probably learned is communication. You have to be able to communicate with so many different people, whether it's community, whether it's administration, whether it's the players, and, of course, parents first and foremost. So I believe communication was the biggest thing that I learned, how many T's to cross and I's to dot with that. But all in all, I believe it was a successful year. We did change the mindset of a few athletes, and that was my goal going in, as well as the mindset of some of our local community members.
Yeah, and I remember that first episode we talked about how you wanted to establish kind of your culture, so to speak, how you wanted the team to be shaped, and it certainly looked like the team not only improved as the season went along, but you could sense the guys, you could see it even on the field at the home games, the buy-in from your team, just looking at it from afar. And there was so many competitive games and games that you guys had 2 wins on the season too. So what are some of the memories so far that stand out in your mind as some of those positive memories that you're going to look back on?
One positive, I think the main positive thing is halftime adjustments. I think a good coaching staff is judged by how they can adjust to the game. One thing you will see is that, especially at home, we made great adjustments in those home games to come out in the second half and fight for Eastside Pride. Another thing that I think we'll be proud of, we started with 78 kids in this program, freshmen through varsity. We finished with 73 kids in this program. So to only lose 5 students, that was huge for our program. That was definitely a goal of mine, to be able to retain players. Another goal of mine was to come in with 25 or more freshmen. We came in with 28 freshmen. They went 7-1 on their season. A huge positives for those kids coming up. And that's without playing with probably the best freshman, because he was playing with us on varsity. So just imagine, what it would have been if we had allowed him to play freshman with his fellow classmates.
Well, he certainly made an impact. We're talking about Marquez Monroe, of course. He certainly made an impact for you guys as a freshman. He's going to be an exciting player for years to come. But let's get to the Washburn game, Coach, the last home game. You guys did some good things here. We're going to look at a nice pass. Jake Houston, he didn't have maybe the most receiving numbers in the district, but my gosh, every time you guys needed a big play, not just offensively but defensively, it seemed like Jake was involved, and here's a big pass play. Good to see him get some yards here in his final home game.
We went into this game understanding, with a real directive to our offensive staff that Jake Houston needs to get the ball on senior night. This was senior night. We were ready for it. Coach Cooper had gave a great offensive game plan and different ways for him to get the ball. You will see him on screens. You will see him on drag routes. You will see him different ways. When 84 has the ball, he can be as explosive as 25.
Well, look at 64. They're getting downfield on the block. That's some
Lumen
good,
Kimoji, yes.
good mobility from Lumen Kimoji right there to get downfield. I know you have to love to see that. You guys were able to get it in the end zone a couple different times too in that game. We're going to see a 1-yard touchdown run by who else but Theo Simmons. He had some cramp issues. Good to see him finish out his season strong.
Yes.
Over 1,100 yards on the season. Terrific year for him.
Well, this is Theo, like you said, our workhorse. This is near the end of the first half. We hadn't got much defensively or offensively, but that was a good momentum booster and actually carried us on into the third quarter. Helped us get back into the game. Mm-hmm. At one time, they were only up by like 10 points when the halftime score was 31-6. We really came out in the second half, and that's just a true testament to a great coaching staff, but more so also to a group of kids who buy in, who really buy into the philosophy and who trust their coaches to make the adjustments that we made.
Yeah, and I know you know that Washburn coaching staff very well, and boy, their quarterback, Gottsman, I mean, you guys had some good coverages at times. You guys were right there, but man, he was making some throws.
Right.
That had to frustrate you guys because you're so good on defense on the sidelines, but sometimes you have to tip your cap to the opposing team. I thought Washburn played a great game.
They played an excellent game, and like I said before, about 15 of those kids in Washburn grew up playing for me. So it was funny because my wife mentioned after the game that every time they made a play or said a name, she would mention our park, which is McCray Park. And she would laugh because I taught them, from 8 years old all the way up to 14. So, I was really happy to see their success. That there are a bunch of juniors who've been great. They were my last class over at the youth program before I really, committed to Bloomington. So I was really proud of those kids for coming and being successful.
We're going to look at one last play here. Jake Houston, I believe, is the last play. He gets into the end zone on senior night. That had to excite the bench.
It did, and this is our tight end pop pass, something we had been looking at all year, but finally decided to run it here. If you look around at Washburn, they had no idea what was coming because they didn't see it on film. But again, we just found different ways to get Jake the ball. Number 8 there, the linebacker, now Dickel. He's someone who's really dear to my heart for Washburn, who grew up with me all the way and trusted me with his career.
So you guys end the regular season, 2 wins. We mentioned not only the 2 wins, Coach, you mentioned the halftime adjustments. We saw it early on in the season, I believe, against St. Anthony. You guys were able to outscore a very good team in the second half. And boy, that comeback against Providence Academy on homecoming, for me, that's the highlight of your guys' season. Just some of those performances from you have to make you proud of this year's team, but also when you look ahead and see some of the players that are going to be coming back, they're going to learn from those experiences.
They really are, and that's one of the focuses that we had. We had that at home, we will fight. Those 4 games at home, we will fight like nobody else. We put another goal on the board, and that was to win homecoming. Win a homecoming game. It was the first time in 8 years that we had been able to do so. So that's another one of our goals that we checked off. Now, we did want to win senior night. We had that commitment. Another goal that we had was to win the rival game, and we did that with Richfield to send the message that we're still the best team south of 494, no matter what. So I was really proud of those guys. I was really proud of our kids, and especially our senior class. We only had about 16 seniors who played, but they contributed. And, they had a great experience there last year. And again, all those were on the goal list to check off for this year.
All right, Coach. Well, plenty more to cover. We'll talk to you about a very exciting playoff game. Unfortunately, a loss for you, but very competitive against Park of Cottage Grove. And we'll kind of put a bow on the season in the final segment, all right?
Thanks, Josh. See you soon.
All right. Coming up next, we talk with the first-year offensive coordinator for Kennedy as Inside Kennedy Football. The season finale continues here on BEC-TV.
Go back and change it all. I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Or maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all. If I could go back, I would. But I can't.
Back on Inside Kennedy Football, the season finale of year 6 of Inside Kennedy Football, wrapping up, putting a bow on Kennedy's season with the first-year offensive coordinator, Jared Cooper, first-time guest on Inside Kennedy Football. Welcome.
Josh.
All right, let's get into it, Jared, because you're new to Kennedy this year, but you're not new to football. So walk us through your background. You're not from the Minneapolis area, so talk about where you grew up, first of all.
I'm a product of the west side of Chicago. I went to Whitney Young High School, played 4 years of football there, and then I went and played 4 years of college football at Aurora University. And after that, I came back to my community, which is that west side Garfield Park area, and decided to start coaching and bringing youth football into the west side of Chicago.
And kind of walk us through your coaching resume. You've been at it a long time in Chicago, and you've been involved, you were telling me, with youth football pretty heavily there. So what exactly did that look like for the last couple of decades?
For me, it started out at one of the park districts. I got into coaching by a good friend of mine, Rob Williams, and then did a year there, and we wound up being third in the city that year. We took a 2-6 team and made it into a 7-2 team, and so it blossomed from there. And then I got a opportunity to coach at the Windy City Dolphins for another 7 years, and had a lot of great kids that came out of that product of that coaching standpoint. And then I decided after 7 years to start my own youth program, the Lawndale Falcons. So I ran the Lawndale Falcons for about 14 years. And from there, the last 4 years of the Lawndale Falcons, we had national teams that went on to nationals to play. We were part of a national structure like Pop Warner, and we did some great things. The only thing I didn't do in my coaching resume is have a national championship.
Any notable players that would stand out that you've been able to coach over the years that either went on to college level or maybe even the NFL that you've been a part of?
Right now, I have I had Robert Hughes, who played at Notre Dame. I had Garrett Wolf, who played at NIU and played for the Chicago Bears. Right now I currently have a kid that played six-year-old youth ball. He's playing at Notre Dame now. And that's Houston Griffith. So I've had some great ones that have come through my hands, and I'm just proud to say that I was able to lay the seed to help those guys grow.
So you were in the Chicagoland area for a long time. How did you get connected with Kedrick Williams? Now you're up here in the Twin Cities, not too far of a drive from the Chicagoland area, but your wife also works here too. So how did that process all develop?
So it's kind of interesting. I referee basketball, and Coach Kedrick is a JV coach here, and just by happenstance, he was here at the activity center running the weekend, basketball tournaments that they have at the activity center. And I just happened to ask, and I said, "Hey, how's your football team going here?" This is literally how it happened in the winter. And he said, "Yeah, I'm the new head coach." I said, "Wow, do you need any coaches? I want to get in. I want to, coach again." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, what do you coach?" I said, "I coach offense." And he said, "Okay, let's talk." We literally were in the office during one of my tournaments. Between games, we were just talking offense. That's when I got an opportunity to meet Theo. Great opportunity. So Theo said, "Well, what kind of coach are you?" I said, "I'm a running coach." He just got, just started smiling.
Of course. He wants
I said, "Man," I just told him all the great running backs that I've had in my career, and he got excited then. And I knew at that point that Kennedy is a place where I wanted to be when you have good kids like Theo, and then I got a chance to meet Jake, and then I got a chance to meet the other guys. And so I knew that Kennedy was home for me because the guys made me feel like family, and all the different things that transpired during the course of the season. There's a lot of things in back of the scenes that happened that these guys have been just intricate in just making my year whole.
So you come into Kennedy, this is your first year. It's been a team that has struggled to score points, but my gosh, I mean, the first year for you as an offensive coordinator, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but 2 times, 3 times as many points this year as the last couple of years combined. What were some of the differences that you have brought to the table, some of the reasons why Kennedy was able to score so many more points this year?
Well, I kind of put a little of my old school philosophy with some of the new school philosophy that I learned down when me and my wife we moved from Chicago to Missouri, and in Missouri I was coaching at Union High School, and Union High School is a 95% pass oriented team. Where I come from, we're a 95% run team. So I said, wait a minute, they got some good things that are going on down at Union. And right now, they're still scoring a lot of points, and they're used to scoring a lot of points. And I said, if I can bridge some of my old school to some of their new school, man, how great of an offense would that be? And so when I did that and coach gave me the opportunity to be the offensive coordinator, I just wanted to make sure that we were a good run sound team that would set up a lot of pass. I'm really excited to come back for next year to really work on that passing game, because there's so much more we can get out of this offense. I always talk about, all the, coach say, well, you should be happy that we scored this amount of points. I'm like, okay, I'm mad about the points we left on the board. That's how I've been all season. And he's like shakes his head and stuff like that. And so we have a good vibe going on the sideline, and I look for his input is, what he wants to see offensively, during between plays, and kind of gives me the longitude and latitude to do what it is that I do well, and I score points.
One of the formations that I really thought benefited your team, maybe specifically, it happened all season, but really that Providence Academy game, you guys went to that full house backfield. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but you got Theo back there, you've got Deion Barber back there, you got 3 backs in the backfield, and you have Avante. That led to that 98-yard drive, and you guys were able to control the clock in the second half. What came behind that formation, and why do you think it was so successful for you guys?
Well, I felt that we were tougher than Providence. I felt that our running game, we can push them around, and when I came out and I saw that, that second half that we were able to, that whole the first series of that second half, we just went down the field, and I said, if it's not broke, then why fix it?
And you continued with that formation and later on in the year, you said, well, if it works against Providence Academy, maybe we'll work against some other teams, right?
Well, that was some of the stuff that, Coach said, hey, look, we got to do some other things, because in another game against Washburn, we couldn't do that power game. So we had to spread Washburn out, and so he spoke about some of the second half adjustments that we made, and one of the second half adjustments was to hit Washburn with our spread format, and we were able to have some success in the second half against Washburn. So from team to team, things change, and you go to a different formation. But I was proud of the fact that guys were able to come in at halftime and make the necessary change, listen to the coaching staff, in which we got a great offensive coaching staff, we got a great defensive coaching staff, we got some great guys that are really committed to the Kennedy football teams.
What are you most proud of year one, wrapping up the
season?
Oh, my
goodness.
Maybe not just maybe something from your standpoint, but also from the team's standpoint.
I am most proud about the fact that those guys came in and they were able to open themselves up to learning a different part of an offense that was different from what they have learned, to get the buy-in, to be coachable. A lot of those young men, they helped me more than they really even understand. There were some different things that transpired personally that these guys were intricate parts of helping me overcome some of the adversities that I went through. So just the character of those young men is impeccable. I'll never forget those guys.
Well, great year one for you, Jared Cooper. Hope you're back for year number 2 at Kennedy. And very nice to meet you. Best of luck as you continue now in a new environment in Minnesota.
Most definitely. Thank you.
All right, there you go. That's first-year offensive coordinator Jared Cooper on Inside Kennedy Football. Coming up, the final segment of the season with the head coach, Kendrick Williams, after this.
Are made stronger by how we treat others.
Put her there.
The light you share can impact those around you, but so can the darkness.
Later, twerps. Did Pete saying mean things bother you?
So when you reach out to another person, take a moment to consider how they will feel and let your heart be the key to making a difference. Because of you, someone's entire day, year, or even life can change.
In every heart, there's hope.
Back on Inside Kennedy Football, final segment of the season as we end season 6 of Inside Kennedy Football. Back with the head coach, Kedrick Williams. Let's get into the playoff game section quarterfinal, Park of Cottage Grove. And what were, high level, what were your takeaways from that game?
Our takeaways was that we were able to compete. We went into that game knowing that we could stop their run game or feeling like that, and their pass game was not a threat. I believe that we showed that a lot in the game. I know the score is not indicative necessarily, but it's all how the game played out. Going into halftime, the score was only 7-0. That's real good for us. It kind of plays in our favor when we were a second half team. Coming out in the second half, we were able to get within a point of them, get within a point, and then we had some miscues happen within the last 2 minutes of the ball game. So when you add those things up, our guys are really riding really high for a long time. Our offense has started to click. Avante was doing some great things with the football. Defensively, we were shutting down a run game, a power run game that they had with a lot of pulling guards, double pull, and different things. And when you're an undersized team, that's one thing I'll be preaching this summer to our kids. Undersized gets us beat in the last 2 minutes. And that's what happened. That's exactly what happened there.
Well, you guys were right in this game right up until the end. We'll get to the highlights here. In the first half, you mentioned your defense, Coach. It's been your calling card all year, really, and just another brilliant takeaway here with an interception to give you guys the football back when they were threatening to maybe go ahead here.
Yeah, this is where we decided, we were dropping guys back, and not so much as, that's Mackay there with that interception. We were basically in a drop cover 4 zone. You will see our backers outside drop. You will see Marquez drop there from the safety position. And once we do that, we brought Dion off the edge instead of in the middle. And it forced a bad, not necessarily a bad throw, but a better play by Mackay Taylor there.
And you mentioned it was just a 7-0 game at the half. They would make it 14-0, but then you guys really stormed back in the fourth quarter. Terrific play here, 22-yard touchdown pass. Jake Husting able to get into the end zone again to cut into this lead here as you guys made it 14-7.
You'll see our power backfield there you talked about with Coach Cooper. But really, Jake is right there off that right tight end. And we went into this year knowing there was different ways we can get Jake Husting the football. I had talked to some college coaches. They wanted to see him doing some different things here going down the last stretches of the week. I believe this is one of the things they wanted to see. Can Jake put his hand in the ground and then come up? And you see he made a great play there. Fabulous play in the corner over 2 defenders. And
a very nice throw, too, by Avante. You guys would drive down the field again, and you would get into the end zone again to make it 14-12. Let's take a look at Avante taking it by himself. This time very late in the fourth quarter. I believe there's only about 2 minutes left in the game at this point.
And this is one by Avante. He was going to throw there. He saw no pressure, so he just went. I tell you, it's probably one of my favorite touchdowns all year, because if you actually look at this, the defense, you'll see number 2 and a couple other guys looking the other way. You see that they thought he had the ball there. And watching it live, it was pretty funny. I'm yelling, run, run, run.
Because no one's there.
Because no one's there.
So you guys had an option to go for 2 in the tie, and you instead opted to go for 1 in the extra point because you had the strong defense and 3 timeouts, I'm assuming, correct?
Well, that's what it was, Josh. And earlier in the game, we had tried to go for 2. It was not there. They had been playing it pretty well. Film tells everything. We had went for 2 a couple of times earlier in the year. We changed up some things, thinking, we can catch them off guard. In the first touchdown, they caught it. So in the second touchdown, our goal was to put the game 14-13, their favor, maybe an onside kick. We had been working on that. Our momentum was there. We were winning the momentum game at that point. Unfortunately, the ball didn't bounce correctly. Bad snap. We tried to go for 2 there. Everything happens in that spur of the moment. That wasn't the worst thing, though. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What I'll say is this. Going for 2 at that point was a decision that we made basically on if you see this happen. And I'm really proud of our kids for being able to adjust, not freaking out, not panicking. Jesse Falk got the ball. He tried to make the best play of it.
Well, it certainly wasn't the end of the game because you guys would go for the onside kick. You didn't get it. You still had a chance here, but unfortunately, on a third down, I have to show this, unfortunately, Coach, but credit Parker Cottage Grove. They make the play here, 45-yard touchdown run. And even still with this touchdown run, the game's not over, as we'll get to here in a moment. But this gave Park at that time a 7-point lead.
And the whole purpose was Park had been punting in the second half, so we were going to bring the house on this. As you see, we got kicked upfield. They ran an awesome play call in the reverse here, underneath reverse, something we had practiced for, but they had only ran one time at that point in the game. So it was something that we knew earlier on about, but I'm going to put that one on me, Josh, because I blitzed I sent the house. It was 3rd and like 9 at that point. We're not losing this ball game is what I told my guys, and we sent everybody. And when you do that, you leave underneath coverage open.
Yep.
You leave that outside open. Credit to Park on that. Great play call.
Yeah, sometimes the schemes just don't align, and that was one of those unfortunate for you guys. But you still got the ball back, and you drove down the field. Unfortunately, just one more play, Park was able to make the interception to seal it. But your team kept fighting in the game, kind of like a microcosm of the entire season, right, Coach? I mean, you guys continue to fight. You're right there, super competitive with a good team in Park. I know it was disappointing to end the season with that loss, but boy, I know you have to love the fight that your team showed in that game.
I really did, and afterwards it was very emotional because of that fight. Kids really felt it. They felt like they gave their all. Even that game, we had some injury issues, some cramping issues with Theo and Jake. One thing I want to credit there, a lot of people don't know this, but in that game, Jake Houston was so hurt. And it just shows the real heart of someone who wants to be a champion, who wants to be a winner. So Jake led us all year from his attitude, his composure, his character, more than anything. And I'm just glad even on that last game, he gave us everything that he had.
I want to give you the final word here as we wrap up the final segment, Coach. Takeaways from the year, things to look ahead to for next year, things that you're proud of for year one. Kind of put a bow on this initial season for you as a head coach of Kennedy.
First and foremost, I just thank the community so much, Josh, because they accepted me. They had me come in. As I stated before, I was the first African-American head football coach at Kennedy, and this community did not care. They embraced me. They believed in what I had to offer. I wore a shirt all year that said, "Win the crowd." What that really meant was win this community over, win the fans. We had more people at games. The student body was amazing this year, absolutely amazing. They bought into school spirit with us. They went on that journey with us. I would say most proud takeaway moments is that the kids were able to, welcome me in as the head coach and believe in me, believe in everything I was trying to teach them, everything I was trying to give to them. They saw it. I had so many hugs that last game, and you always think this kid didn't get it or that kid didn't get it. But when they tell you, I started out this thing, and my first day I told them, I am not a transactional coach. I'm a transformational coach. Many kids, Coach Cooper was here bragging about everybody that he's had at the youth level. I've had the greats, Larry Fitzgerald, Rashid Hageman, Evan Williams, Jared Newberry, all those guys played for me over in Minneapolis. And, they still come back, and they tell me the things that, a practice, that something happened at a practice, and that's transformational right there. And I just really hope that in 15 years, I'm in Cub Foods on Lindale somewhere, and I'm just walking and I see a player, and he tells me something that transformed his high school career. That's really why I do this, Josh. I'm proud of these guys. I'm proud of the effort. I'm proud of the mentality. I truly believe that we are on the way up for Kennedy football.
Well, you can see the improvement on the field, Coach, and a great year one for you. Year two coming up, year 7 of Inside Kennedy football next fall. But I know you want to thank the sponsors of Kennedy here as we close.
I really do. I want to thank our sponsors, Rolly Ball, Applebee's, TGK Automotive, Sports Bar. I'm sorry. There's just so many great guys. There's so many people. Veet was so good to us. They took care of us every week on a food standpoint. So many community people got Festival Foods. So many people got behind us. Holiday Gas Station. I can go on and on. But when you say my proudest moment, I think my proudest moment was that our GPA went up over a half a point on this football program. We had, I believe, a total of maybe 10% of kids less than a 2.7 GPA. That is by far our proudest accomplishment this year.
Very good, Coach. We'll end on that, all right, as we wrap up Season 6 of Inside Kennedy Football. Again, thanks to Coach Kedrick Williams and all of the guests and players throughout the season to make Season 6 of Inside Kennedy Football possible. And one final note, our producer, Paul Fournier, you know him from the sidelines of all the home football games. It is his final episode as producer of Inside Kennedy Football. He's still going to be around the program, but Paul, we will certainly miss you on this award-winning show that you've certainly been an integral part of. Well, that'll wrap it up for our crew. This is Josh Powers. Season 6 of Inside Kennedy Football in the books. So long from our studios.